I'd like to thank you for taking some time to interview with us.
It's my pleasure. I thank you so much.
Your interest in nature, this whole
Right.
concept of sound paintings, very
That's right.
serene, very beautiful.
Most people who compose music are using their kind of like their ears to compose, and I'm more of a visual composer. In other words, I transform what I see, like for example in nature, and I put that into the music. So I don't necessarily need to hear the birds. If I see them, I can write something. But I must state also that if I hear some birds, singing, also, I mean, that can also inspire a composition. But the root of all of that, actually, Thomas, comes from the fact that my mother is a watercolor painter and a teacher, and she taught all her life drawing and painting, and she traveled all over the world doing watercolor painting. So I guess I inherited this visual aspect from her. She once told me that when she went to Portugal to paint, she saw 100 different shades of green in nature. So I try to take that nuance uh, concept into my music and play very subtly with the shades of color, as if the piano itself is a palette of paints, and just playing with all the various colors and create music.
But when you go into the studio now to create,
Yeah, yeah.
and you're going to make a permanent record of something, do you find that process a little limiting for you?
Very much so. The what is kind of scary but very exciting at the same time about recording an album is that when I practice the years or the months ahead to record, I'm practicing at home and I'm ready. But once I'm in the studio, the fact that one of the pieces is going to be permanently on the CD or on the recording itself is kind of strange, because I've played the piece a million times, both in concert and in practicing, and then all of a sudden, one take, or rather one way of playing it will be, one interpretation of it will be permanently fixed in the recording. And I find that I can't really repeat when I compose the piece of music, that fire and inspiration that comes out so naturally when I'm composing. I can't repeat that in the recording studio, because it's two different worlds. And in the studio, in the recording process, I try to get something that's poetic, sensitive, and tells a story. But because the pressure's on to get something finalized there, it doesn't come out at all like when it's being created. So it's two different universes. One is the natural creation of the composition, and the other one is the trying to get it down in a recording studio.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel differently recording, and I feel differently when I'm in the process of composing. So I can't repeat the process, actually.
Mm-hmm. Who were some of your earliest influences?
Well, I am a huge Genesis fan. Tony Banks is the keyboard player for Genesis, and but I started listening to classical music when I was a little child. We had a phonograph in the early '60s at my parents' house, and I used to listen to records. And I was such a small boy that my head was at the level of the phonograph, and I used to spend hours listening to classical music mostly. And then when I discovered Genesis, that took me into this incredible place of imagination and chords and storytelling. And then I got into Pink Floyd, and I still love them. And I like Stevie Wonder is my favorite. I'm a big fan of the Beatles, of course. And I like Simon and Garfunkel. Those are some, and of course in the classical realm, Beethoven, Rachmaninoff, Chopin, Schubert. I'm influenced by mostly classical and those pop rock bands.
And there's, I guess there's some indications in, some of the information that's rolling around out there about you that, you started with the intention to learn a little more formally, but then at some point you decided you were going to jump off and pursue the music you heard in your head.
You got it. I was a very nervous child. Extremely athletic, with just a bundle of energy nonstop, and I couldn't sit there for very long on a piano bench. So when I went to my piano lessons, I didn't practice what the teachers really told me to practice, but I always came with a new composition. I started composing when I was 7. The moment I sat down at the piano, I had not known anything about composing, but a composition came right away from just sitting at the piano for the very first time. My first composition was called "The Cat and the Rain," and at my piano lessons, it was very frustrating for my teachers because I didn't really learn to to play the way that they wanted to show me, and my energy was focused, like you said, on creativity, and that was never going to stop. That was the direction that I felt most comfortable in, and that was the world of music that I was attracted to. And at the concerts, when I was a child, the teacher would have people come over, parents come over to hear their children play classical music, and on the program, I would play my own compositions, and everybody else would play music from the famous classical composers. So I was, right from the very start, playing my own music in public.
You've spent some time in Europe.
That's right. I studied Italian at McGill University here in Montreal, and I ended up getting a scholarship to go to a city called Siena, which is in Tuscany, and there I went to a school for foreign students and studied Italian full time and played guitar actually on the street and with other musicians and by myself for fun. And that's I studied Italian, and when I moved to Paris, France, to learn French, I got an opportunity to volunteer as a radio host of a trilingual classical radio show. I was asked to just play Italian classical music, and I spoke on air in Italian, French, and English. So that was a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed it. In fact, if I was not a businessman in music and a composer, I would really prefer. I would really love to be a radio host of some type of show where I would interview people and play a wide variety of music. So that's something that I'm hoping to do down the road. But right now, I'm just really having a great time with this music.
Mm-hmm. That must have taken an enormous amount of confidence to, learn a language and then land, a radio spot. I think it's very admirable.
Well, they were very open to having someone from North America with a bit of an English accent while speaking French and Italian, and I pulled it off, and it was really, really a wonderful experience, and met a lot of really interesting people. I did a lot of crazy things on the radio. I pretended that Mozart was still alive and invited Mozart on my show and asked him what type of music he was doing, and he told me he was working in a car wash, that he's not doing music anymore, and that was kind of fun,
Sounds like it.
Radio is a magical place, because you don't see the person who's talking, and in this day and age, everything is so visual with the internet, and radio has this ancient magic about it that never goes away, because all you hear is a voice, and there's a deeper intimacy, I find, on radio than there are on a lot of other media outlets,
Yeah. On the subject of radio, for some of the listeners that are, still aspiring to have music aired and just to kind of get it out there, what does it feel like to actually hear your music on the radio?
Wow, that's a really interesting question. When I first heard my music on the radio for the first time, I actually quickly turned out all the lights and lit a candle. And I go, hey, that's my music. It was a really exciting moment. I knew the broadcaster who was he was the first person that opened the door for me in the media of radio, and it was really, really exciting. I just wanted to be by myself in the quiet with the candlelight and in the dark and listening to my music. So, and then very often I would hear other people, mostly friends, tell me that they heard my music on this station, and that was really, really nice. And then there's the funny moments where I'm actually, I get out of bed and I go into the kitchen, I turn the radio on, and I'm hearing this solo piano music, and I'm going, this sounds really nice. I don't know what it is, and, but it's there's something really, it's hitting me in a special spot. And then I realize, hey, wait a minute, this is my music. So it was like I was a listener to my own music, and I was sort of like sent from it. And then when I realized it was mine, I go, hey, this is really, really nice to know that my music's on the air. So it's always a special feeling, to hear your own music on the air. That's what it's all about for all creators, is to share your music on the air. It's very special.
And now, taking that, I guess, to the next step.
Yeah.
How does it feel to actually start selling your music?
Well, that I could really write a book on, because my father was an accountant and a businessman, and my mother being a painter, I developed if you want to, I was going to say dual citizenship here, of business orientation and creative, inspiration. And I'm split right down the two. I love doing the business side of music, and it is a business. There's no way of running away from that. As soon as you decide to record your own music and put it into music and publishing and sales, you've got to put on that business hat, unless you've got a major company or a company, independent label of some sort doing it for you, which I have experienced. But even when I was with a company in Toronto called Avalon, and sub-distributed by Universal Music Canada. And before that, Polygram. I was always contacting satellite radio, online stations, and radio stations all over the world for years, and then sending my music and following up with that to make sure that they're playing my music on the air, on their program. And I developed all my skills by just trial and error. I just started by picking up the phone and phoning people who were at the station and sending my cassettes many years ago, and then CDs all over the world. And my slogan has always been, do not think local, think global. Music is a language to be heard all over the world. And I'm very fortunate to write instrumental music because there's no, singing or language involved. So being a pianist, you can have that music played anywhere in the world.
There also isn't a stigma on age either. It's interesting. It kind of transcends, like it's not about what's hot today and what looks hot today. It kind of transcends all that, and it lives on. It's almost age indiscriminate.
You're talking about like instrumental music?
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the classical composers and going way back, to the Renaissance, medieval, classical period. I mean, people are still filling up concert halls all over the world. I'm listening to opera and classical music and chamber music, and I'm a fan of acoustic instruments, and I'm keeping that aspect of the music world alive by playing the piano and instrumental music is not loved by everybody, but there are great fans and listeners all over the world who love just to hear instruments played, and that soothes their soul. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Mm-hmm. And in June, there was a collaboration, music for a film that aired on PBS, a documentary. There is a season.
Yeah, that hasn't happened yet. It's there's a guy, a filmmaker in California called Sterling Johnson. He contacted me over a year ago, and he's doing a series of Blu-rays and videos of Yosemite Park. Is that how you pronounce it in California?
Yeah, sure, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's asked me to, he would like to use some of my piano pieces for that video, and he's going to be doing the editing later in 2015 actually, and it will be broadcast in California on PBS. Also, the well-known New Age composer David Arkenstone will also have his music in that movie film. And there will be someone else as well. I forget his name, unfortunately. But so there's three of us that will have our music in Sterling Johnson's movie. And I think that it's called There Is a Season. I think that's what it's called.
That's great. How did he find your music? Was this a connection, or did he just
No. I think he heard it on one of the online stations and the many online stations and felt a connection to my music and simply emailed me and we took it from there.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, what's up and coming in terms of new recordings, new appearances? It looks like it. Well, let me ask you: do you maintain a fairly busy touring schedule? Do you like to get that?
Not at all. I don't do a lot of concerts actually. I have one this Sunday that's sold out here in Montreal at a lovely cultural center. I'll be performing pieces from all of my CDs, and I perform at the end of the concert. I'll be performing with a bass player named Guy Dev, so we're going to be doing a duet, and that's that show. And during the summer, I was playing I played at a New Age a showcase run by a guy named a pianist, New Age pianist called Donovan Johnson. That was in New Orleans, and then I was down in Portland, Maine, near the ocean, doing a house concert there. And I've been working actually the last 4 or 5 months, networking like crazy for the Grammys. So I've submitted my latest album, which is called The Peace Messenger, in for Best New Age Album at the 57th Grammy Awards coming up on February the 6th in Los Angeles. So that's what I've been doing, focusing on networking and shipping my CDs out to other Grammy voting members. And the first ballot is now being, the votes are in. Deadline was November the 5th. And to get a Grammy, you have to get into the second round. And I'll only know by December if I pass into the second round. And then the final voting ends in January for the final 5 in every category. And there's 80 categories at the Grammy. So I'm in the Best New Age Music category. Regarding the touring, I don't, if I go somewhere, I might go away for, 2 weeks or something, Thomas. And it's because I love to cook, and I don't like being on the road for long periods of time. It's not that I get homesick at all. Never been homesick. My parents actually sent me away to camp when I was 6 years of age. So I never really, for several weeks, I never felt homesick at all. But I'm not somebody who has the energy or the determination, I think, to do a 3-month, 6-month tour around the world. I need to be grounded at home and cook my own food. I'm mostly a vegetarian, and I find that what I eat really keeps me grounded, and that's an essential part of keeping me healthy and happy. So so I don't do. I haven't actually gone on any world tours or anything like that. It's because I'm very much a home person.
It's very focused. I admire it because it obviously that's where your music comes from, right? It's from that sense of being grounded and knowing your place in the world, and then it sort of just kind of pours out. And I guess touring, doing travel and keeping schedules and playing, all over the place in rapid succession, I guess could really throw that whole sense of self.
You got it. And in fact, it's funny. You mentioned that I have a piece on the Peace Messenger album called Selfless Self, and that's about where I didn't have any sense of self, where I was completely ungrounded and I didn't know where I was, who I am, what I'm doing with my life, and it was a very scary place to be. But everybody comes out of those places, and I just, if, for example, if someone was to call me and say, we would like you to come to play in Japan at 4 or 5 venues, next month, I'm off. And I'm going there, and I'll go and perform anywhere in the world, really. But I don't want to be away for, as I said, for long, long periods of time. Mind you, if I was with a band, I've been in a number of bands, I think that would be, I would feel more comfortable traveling with a group of people and experiencing the journey and sharing the journey with other people and being able to talk to people that I know and be with friends in the band. That would be more comfortable for me. But I've been offered, to play on cruise ships, but I turned that down because I don't want to play cover music covers for 5 shows a night, on a cruise ship. I would probably jump off the ship because it would drive me completely insane.
William Ackerman had said he does what he calls house concerts, and he's loving it.
I do tons of those. I do tons of house concerts. They're huge here, and I'm sitting in my living room talking to you, and I turn my living room into a concert hall. It sits 25 people comfortably. All of my shows sell out. I do a lot of those during the year, and I serve food and drinks. People bring food and drinks as well, and it's a party. I do 2 sets. It's like, about 45 minutes. It's like an hour and a half concerts, and there's an intermission. All the tickets are sold in advance. I make tickets with a theme, title theme, and then before I perform, all the tickets are sold out, and then usually a few people will pack the house and show up the night of the show, and okay, come on in, and I sell my CDs after, and it's a great way of making money and having people meet people and socialize in a very, very intimate setting. The house concert is the fastest growing performance way now for people that want to get their music out there.
Yeah.
They're easily set up, and you don't have to sell 500 tickets, and
you don't have to charge ridiculous prices for entry, which is, I mean, some of these concerts you'd love to get out to them, but in truth they're cost prohibitive. I mean,
sure. Well, David Lance, I know, did did several in his own home. I know that. I mean, I've never spoken to David personally, but I follow his career as I do so many other artists in every venue, but particularly in New Age, which is my specialty.
mm-hmm.
It's where my music is. So I like to learn and study and follow so many other artists around the world. But David, had people performing. Joe Bongiorno, David Neveu, I think his name was pronounced. He does tons of concerts, house concerts. It's a fantastic way to share your music and sell product.
Yeah, there's also a service that I learned about through an interview, actually, with a Broadway actress, singer, Sarah Rice. She's doing that now. She switched over to the theremin, right? She just went bonkers for the theremin one day. And she gives concerts from her house, and apparently there's a service that allows people to stream in, and you broadcast your concerts, and it's the same thing. You sell the tickets in advance, and you give a concert at a specific, at a specified time and date, and it's live.
Yeah, I think that's the type of webcam show, right?
Right. So
yeah, I haven't set that up yet, but I know that some of the artists that I just mentioned do that. And you could have people tuning in to a live show in your own house from all over the world, and through a link on the internet, and you bring people into your home that way. So that's another way of doing it, for sure.
It's such an exciting time for musicians. There's so many ways to get your music out there. Maybe not.
Oh, there sure are.
Yeah.
But we have to remember that. I read recently, and actually read it several times, that for sales of music, Amazon.com and iTunes.com actually take about over 90% of the sales industry of music. So if you think about all of the hundreds or thousands of other, internet companies that are, selling music, they're part of the, 8%. So the funnel, the channel for selling music is through Amazon and iTunes, and they are the monopoly of the music industry.
Yeah, and for now, watching traditional record company giants kind of fall to this, it just, it's interesting because it's going to transform again. It's almost inevitable. But being able to navigate that, I think, is important for musicians. You mentioned earlier, being able to put on a business hat it's just as important, right? As the
sure is.
creative
It
have.
is the most. I totally agree with you, Thomas. It's the most incredible time for musicians to with at the computer with their fingers. You know, you could do a world tour really of your music by sitting at your own office desk. You know what I mean? You can send videos, links to your merchandise, and you see what I'm saying? You can really tour around the world without having to stay in any hotel or. But I mean, there's nothing like the live show, though, right? I mean, I have one regret in my life, and that's I didn't get a chance to, play at Woodstock. Would have liked to have opened up for Jimi Hendrix or Santana or something. But yeah, I mean, someone like myself who loves the music business. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of rough patches along the way for everybody, but that only makes you stronger. And there's always rejections along the way and misunderstandings, but I see the music industry a bit like a boxing ring. Like, you get knocked down by George Foreman or Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali. You got to get back up and get into your corner and fight, and fight in a positive way, and keep networking and taking risks, and don't be intimidated by some vice president or president and also, when somebody says no to you, that doesn't mean that they won't open your door, 15 years later and do something incredible with your music, and set up a show or a tour or an interview or a TV show or something. Always keep the networking going. And the key to, I think, being successful in the music industry is the follow-ups. It's like, you've sent something to someone, or someone gives you a business card and they're involved in some aspect of the music industry that you are involved in, that can help you. You knock on their door and you follow up with it, and you keep in touch with them once in a while. Those are the people that are going to succeed by keeping the channels of communication open. That is the key to, I think, being successful and making a very good living. And you can make an incredible living in the music industry if you keep those channels going.
It's very true, and that's very inspiring. I like the way you put that. I guess, feeling confident in your own corner of the universe,
That's right. That's
and,
right.
Just let it all kind of flow from there.
And to also look at it, you mentioned corner of the universe. Yes, we are sort of our own, I was going to say egocentric, narcissistic world. Okay, I mean, when we write a novel or we do a recording, it is autobiographical. It is coming from our own life experiences. However, it's really important to see the music industry, if I may say, as one gigantic family. We are all linked together somehow. Also, in the sense that somebody who writes heavy metal music might actually just like my solo new age piano music or neoclassical music, and I might trip out on a punk band or a music from India. That and you never know who these people might know. So I am open to all styles of music. I like more than I do others. That's the way it is. But I'm not afraid to share my music with someone in a heavy metal band who goes, hey, I really like that piano music. I'm used to, the Marshall amplifiers blowing off the building.
Maybe that's exactly what they needed to unwind, and...
I need to unwind, and I need to get more crazy and run around and, bang myself into some walls and knock down some furniture, you see? So I'm serious. I need to do that sometimes, too. I'll go on the internet or I'll attend a heavy metal concert or something like that. We can't, lie to ourselves. In every musician, there's always several kind of layers of interest and passions. And, people around the world know that I write this solo piano music, but I have a side of me that can write rock music, a I love bossa nova music from Brazil, and I love to jam with folk artists. I'm working on another friend's album right now, being a keyboard player on his folk album. I've played Iranian music, Jewish music, Hungarian, Russian, Chinese music. I'm all over the map, you know. I'm like, what would you say, a musical kind of explorer, you know, in the laboratory. I want to, you know, dive into the nucleus and the atoms of music and discover what's going on in that unknown world.
It is a cosmic journey. Whether someone would admit it or not, I don't think there's a way to really appreciate music at any level without really having eclectic taste, because it's sort of like if you imagine if you went to a museum and you only would look at one kind of painting.
I mean, look at Stan Getz, you know, he famous American saxophone player who, you know, took off to Brazil and started playing, you know, Brazilian music there, and that went into his jazz, right?
Right, brought it to the world.
And that's right. So Peter Gabriel, look what he's been doing, you know, with his world music and how many doors has he opened for artists from Africa and other artists from all over the world to record in his studios in England, and his influence on so many different styles of music. I mean, we have to give back. And if we have a gift to that comes out of nowhere, I can't explain where this gift of being able to compose. If you were to give me, if I was to be in a room with a piano with you, and I would ask you, give me an image, and you would say, okay, how about two people running in a rainstorm to get back to their house. You know, they got like 3 blocks to go, and they're running in this wicked rainstorm. I can sit down the piano right away and play that image for you.
It's beautiful.
It's the easiest thing in the world for me to do. But I have to share this, you know, and I have to give it to somebody. I've got to give it back. And if I can give it without any expectations, without taking anything personally, which comes from the book, the 4 Agreements, not to take anything personally and just perform and share, that makes me happy. You know, give it away. Give it away.
That's beautiful. Mark, it's been a real pleasure speaking with you today.
Yeah, likewise, Thomas. And if you come to Montreal, and I will come to New York to perform. I know that I'll be one of these days coming to New York. I'll give you a call, and
I will look forward to that. Absolutely.
And if you come to Montreal, give me a buzz, and you know, we'll go out for a meal or something. And you know, if you want me to show you a little bit around the town. Have you been here before?
I have not.
Oh, okay. So there you go. I mean, I was very happy to show you a little bit around the city. So
best of luck with the Grammy nomination. I know that will be probably a thrill beyond any of your experiences at this point.
Yeah, well, I wrote my speech about 4 years ago.
That's positive thinking.
Anyway, I mean, there's so many great musicians in every category, and if I get in the final 5, I would be absolutely. I would be so thrilled and be able to meet some people in Los Angeles and just, you know, hang out and take it from there, you know. So we'll see what happens. You know, whatever happens, it's all good. You know, the process is I've been able to meet, you know, on social media so many wonderful performers and artists. So I'm already very happy with that, and being nominated, if I do, for a Grammy would just be the cherry on the cake, you know?
Hear, hear. All right, yeah. Mark. Will you enjoy your day?
Okay,
and Mark, it's been a real pleasure speaking with you today.